All right, hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Mike Lindsley, back with you for 9 minutes with me all over IGTV, Facebook, and on YouTube. Be sure you hit me on Twitter at Mike L Sports, Instagram Mike L Sports 1979, and of course, you can download and subscribe to my podcast. It is called the ML Sports Platter, all over the major platforms like Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts, as well as Stitcher, Deezer, the Podbean app, YouTube, and Tumblr. This video is brought to you by Empower Federal Credit Union, Bryant and Stratton College, the Vince Segura Consulting Group, and our terrific friends at Rosie's Corner. If you're in and around Central New York, make sure you pick up Rosie's today. The pizza, the wings, the pasta, hot and cold subs, themed food days like Meatloaf Monday and Fish Friday. Get it all at Rosie's Corner. They will deliver via Grubhub as well. Rosie's Corner is a proud sponsor of the ML Sports Platter. So I really wanted to do an Eli Manning long form video. If you follow me on Twitter, you see that I did kind of a short form one with Eli being a Hall of Famer. I don't think there's any question about it, but I want to kind of get into the career of Eli Manning and kind of explain why I think Eli is in fact a bona fide Hall of Famer. Now remember, if you go back to the beginning days of Eli Manning, it didn't really start that great when he demanded, to not play on the West Coast. Well, it couldn't have ended better with Eli Manning in terms of that decision way back when. He I think, was the prodigal son. I think he was the perfect quarterback for New York. Eli Manning never changed when he was here, and he never changed when he was down here. And then when you think about the relationship that he had with Tom Coughlin, you think about the way the offense was built. Eli Manning was by no means a perfect quarterback, and I think, while Giant fans made the joke for a while comparing him to Peyton and all this, well, he has 2 rings and Peyton only had 1. That was at the time. Now we know Peyton has 2. You can't spell elite without Eli and all that sort of thing. Peyton, through the years, clearly was the better quarterback. There's no doubt about it. But when you talk about Eli Manning and you talk about fit, much like the guy behind me in terms of Derek Jeter in New York, not many people can beat Jeter. Not many people can beat Eli Manning. You can just toss somebody into a spot and have them flourish in New York City and win championships in New York City. Being on the biggest stage with all the demands, the demanding fan base, etc., all the media attention, I think Eli Manning really handled it well. I think the guy's a Hall of Famer for a couple of reasons. Number one, and this is the most important one, especially when you look at football. In baseball, you can still make the Hall of Fame and be Ernie Banks, right? You not participating on the big stage, maybe only getting 1 crack at the World Series. If you're just a flat-out ridiculous player, but you never get to the big stage, you never get October glory over and over and over again, like Derek Sanderson Jeter, you can be Ernie Banks, Ted Williams, etc. Ted Williams, arguably the greatest hitter of all time. This guy is a bona fide, clear first ballot Hall of Famer, but he didn't have repeated postseason success. In football, boy, does that matter. If you take away the Super Bowls for Lynn Swann, he may be a borderline Hall of Famer. In the case of Eli Manning performed on the biggest stage as well as anybody in the history of the game. He slayed Bill Belichick's Patriots, which winning 2 Super Bowls against that dynasty, it almost counts as 3 or 4. Number 2, not only did he win them, he was unbelievable. The game within the game, the sideline within the sideline, winning 2 Super Bowl MVPs. Much to the chagrin of a lot of people out there, whether they're anti-Giant people or not, people will say, well, the defense carried the Giants. Please, Eli Manning didn't really have to do a lot. Well, first of all, defenses have carried teams before. Think of the 85 Bears and the 2000 Ravens. But in this particular case, nothing could be further from the truth. Do you forget Eli Manning running like crazy with his jersey getting pulled and all the rest? I know David Tyree made the ridiculous catch along the helmet, but he doesn't even get an opportunity for that if Eli doesn't scramble out and put the ball up in the air for Tyree to go and get it. What about the backdoor throws? What about the unbelievable corner throws to the likes of Manningham and to Plax Burress and all these other guys? Eli in the 4th quarter in the Super Bowls was absolutely amazing against the greatest defensive mind in the history of football in terms of Bill Belichick. So biggest stage, 1-2, beat the Patriots, Super Bowl MVP. And then I think when you look at the numbers, I know that Eli Manning came about and then grew about halfway through his career as offense started to explode more in the NFL, of course, tailoring all the rules to quarterbacks. You can't hit anybody and all the rest. That does help Eli. It helps Breeze, Big Ben, Peyton. It helps everybody. Tom Brady, of course. Eli Manning still over 57,000 yards, I believe, is the number. Now, he'd probably still have over 50,000 even in this day of offensive explosion, and that's pretty darn good to have over 57,000 yards. You think about a lot of it too. The last couple of years, they didn't really have tons to work with. They traded Odell Beckham Jr. He had to compete with other quarterbacks on the team. And Eli Manning just kept beating the drum like he always does, wearing the poker face, staying classy, answering all the questions. His numbers are still pretty good. I mean, you're talking about a guy who has over 350 touchdowns in the NFL as well. And I know that the touchdown to interception ratio isn't great. And I know his record win-loss isn't great. He's around a 500 quarterback. And that's where a lot of people have problems with him. Well, geez, this guy isn't even a superior winner. He's not even, like a John Elway, and I don't know the win-loss percentages per se of some of the guys I'm about to mention, but I know that they're better than Eli Manning, and in some cases they're far superior. But he's not a Drew Brees win-loss record guy. He's not a Troy Aikman, Steve Young, Joe Montana, Tom Brady, Big Ben, big-time win percentage, and not a lot on the loss percentage. But for me, that doesn't matter. I look at Eli Manning very similarly to Joe Namath in terms of their place in history. Joe Namath, Super Bowl III, Jets quarterback, guaranteed victory against the superior powerhouse Baltimore Colts, the AFL. Of course, challenging the NFL in terms of the Foolish Club and Lamar Hunt and Sonny Werblin and Al Davis and Ralph Wilson Jr. and all those guys. That was a monumental win. That was the biggest win for the AFL in history. Joe Namath's win percentage, not very good. The interception, the TD to interception ratio, not very good. Joe Namath at the end, it was brutal. People who saw him play in the end when he left to go out to the West Coast, it was dreadful to watch the guy play quarterback. But Joe Namath, again, on the biggest stage, was enormously efficient and very, very important. And his numbers, while they're not really, really amazing, and they're more along the lines of average or above average, Joe Namath put up good enough numbers for his era, and he had a couple of really, really decent seasons. Was never the best quarterback in the NFL. Eli Manning also never the best quarterback in the NFL. But again, I think numbers-wise, good enough, impact on the game, and of course on the biggest stage, Eli Manning was absolutely incredible, and I think Joe Namath doing it the way he did was great as well. I think Eli Manning, though, is in a class by himself because of what I talked about in terms of beating the New England Patriots. I mean, let's be honest right now. If Eli Manning doesn't do what he does, Tom Brady might have 8 rings. Now, I know that the pass rush is amazing. You know the cast of characters from, the Tucks to the Umañoras to the Strahans and the like, charging forward and giving Brady hell in those big games. But Eli Manning was absolutely important and absolutely terrific in those Super Bowls. And when you beat the New England Patriots, when you beat Bill Belichick, when you beat that defense, when you win on the big stage, when you win Super Bowl MVP not once but twice, it really says something. And that is a big-time landmark spot that not a lot of quarterbacks have. Troy Aikman and the Cowboys winning multiple Super Bowls, beating the Bills, didn't beat Bill Belichick in the Super Bowl. All those 49ers teams didn't beat the Patriots dynasty that went to the Super Bowl 9 times and won it 6 times. Didn't have to beat Belichick in that situation. Take a look at the Pittsburgh Steelers of recent times. The Colts, they had to slay Belichick as well. But, in AFC Championship games, the Ravens and the like. But on the biggest stage, the Super Bowl, the New York Giants won 2 against the great Belichick and the New England Patriots. So, I don't think Eli Manning is a slam dunk first ballot Hall of Famer. He may not get on a second or third, but he may be around that 4th, 5th, or 6th ballot. At the end of the day, Eli Manning, to me, is a Hall of Famer and should be marching eventually to Canton. This is 9 Minutes with me, Mike Lindsley, all over IGTV, Facebook, and YouTube. Make sure you hit me on Twitter, @MikeLSports. The video here brought to you by Bryant and Stratton College, Ryan Hanlon of Howard Hanna Real Estate, Brian Comboy of Mass Mutual New York State, and our terrific friends at Hydes of Liverpool. You'll never have a better hot dog off the grill if you're in and around Central New York. Get to Hydes, a CNY staple for decades. Hydes of Liverpool, a title sponsor of the ML Sports Platter. As I always tell you, enjoy the games.